The sixth year of the Hijriah, or migration, began with a sense of anticipation for the early Muslims. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had a dream, a powerful vision of himself entering the Kaaba, the holiest shrine in Islam, located in Mecca. This dream inspired a longing in the hearts of the Muslims, many of whom had left their homes in Mecca years prior. They yearned to return, not as conquerors, but as pilgrims, seeking to fulfill their religious duty. Thus, in 628 AD, the Prophet, peace be upon him, along with around 1,400 companions, set out from Medina towards Mecca. They were unarmed, wearing the simple white garments of pilgrims, signifying their peaceful intentions. This journey was not about war, it was about asserting their right to pray at their holiest site. However, their journey was met with resistance from the Quraysh, the leading tribe of Mecca, who had opposed the Prophet's message and driven his followers from their homes. The Quraysh, wary of the Muslims' growing strength, were determined to prevent their entry into Mecca. Tensions were high as both sides camped near Hudaybiyah, a place on the outskirts of the sacred territory. Negotiations commenced, and it was in this charged atmosphere that the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, a pivotal event in Islamic history, was to be forged. The Treaty of Hudaybiyah, at first glance, appeared heavily skewed in favor of the Quraysh. The terms dictated that the Muslims would return to Medina that year without performing the pilgrimage. They were granted permission to return the following year, but only for 3 days. And even then, they would have to enter unarmed. Furthermore, any member of the Quraysh joining the Muslims without permission would have to be returned, while the same did not apply to Muslims joining the Quraysh. These seemingly unequal clauses caused consternation among some Muslims. They felt humiliated, questioning why Allah would allow such a treaty. Even Umar ibn al-Khattab, a close companion of the Prophet, peace be upon him, known for his strong faith, struggled to understand the wisdom behind these terms. He questioned the Prophet, peace be upon him, directly, his voice filled with anguish. The Prophet, peace be upon him, however, remained calm and reassured his companions. He explained that this treaty, though seemingly unfavorable, was a victory in disguise. It was a strategic masterpiece, laying the groundwork for the future spread of Islam. He reminded them that Allah had revealed in the Quran that this treaty was a manifest victory. Indeed, the treaty brought an end to years of fighting, creating a much-needed period of peace. This peace would allow Islam to flourish, free from the constant threat of war. The treaty also granted Muslims the right to visit Mecca the following year, establishing a precedent and implicitly recognizing the existence and legitimacy of the Muslim community. Furthermore, the treaty stipulated a 10-year truce and opened the way for communication and interaction between Muslims and the Quraysh. This interaction would expose the Meccans to the true teachings of Islam, breaking down years of prejudice and misconceptions. Section 4. Under a Blessed Tree, the Pledge of Ridwan. During the negotiations, an incident occurred that further tested the faith of the Muslims but ultimately strengthened their resolve. A rumor spread that Uthman bin Affan, one of the Prophet's companions who had gone to Mecca to negotiate, had been killed by the Quraysh. Outraged and grief-stricken, the Muslims gathered under a tree and pledged their allegiance to the Prophet, vowing to fight for him until their last breath. This oath, taken under the shade of a samura tree, became known as the Pledge of Ridwan, named after a well near the tree. The Quran mentions this pledge, stating that Allah was pleased with the believers for their unwavering loyalty and sacrifice. This incident demonstrated the unshakable bond between the Prophet and his companions, a bond forged in faith, trust, and shared sacrifice. Section 5. Letters to Emperors inviting the world to Islam. With a period of peace secured, the Prophet turned his attention to the wider world. He recognized that Islam's message was universal, meant for all humankind. He began sending letters to the rulers of major empires, inviting them to Islam. Among them were letters to Heraclius, the Byzantine emperor, Khusro II, the king of Persia, the Negus of Abyssinia, and Muqawqis, the ruler of Egypt. These letters, carried by trusted companions, were not merely political overtures, they were heartfelt invitations to embrace Islam, presented with respect and wisdom. The Prophet explained the fundamental message of Islam, the oneness of God, the rejection of idolatry, and the importance of living a life guided by God's will. While not all rulers embraced Islam, their responses varied. Some received the message with respect and courtesy, recognizing the sincerity of the Prophet and the growing influence of Islam. Others reacted with indifference or hostility. Nevertheless, these letters marked a significant moment in history. Section 6. The Gathering Storm, Conversions and Conquests. The Treaty of Hudaybiyah, despite initial appearances, proved to be a turning point in favor of the Muslims. The truce created an environment where Islam could spread more rapidly. The very people who had once opposed the Prophet were now free to interact with Muslims, hear the message of Islam, and witness its transformative power. Many prominent Meccans, including Khalid ibn al-Walid and Ammar ibn al-As, who would later become great military leaders in Islam, embraced the faith during this period. Tribes that had previously remained neutral or allied with the Quraysh, recognizing the Muslims' growing strength and the truth of their message, began to join the fold of Islam. The years following Hudaybiyah saw a significant increase in conversions. Islam's message of equality, justice, and submission to the one God resonated deeply with people from diverse backgrounds. The Muslim community, once a small group facing persecution, was rapidly expanding, becoming a force to be reckoned with on the Arabian Peninsula.